A bustling courthouse in the heart of Washington, D.C. Marble floors gleam under fluorescent lights, and the air hums with the weight of justice. Lawyers in sharp suits stride confidently, their briefcases swinging, while clerks and bailiffs move with purpose. Everyone here has a role, a title, a place in the hierarchy. And then there's her, a woman who doesn't stand out. She's dressed in a plain navy blazer, a simple blouse, and slacks that look like they've been worn 1,000 times. No makeup, no flashy jewelry, just a pair of sensible shoes and a worn leather satchel slung over her shoulder. She's quiet, blending into the crowd, her eyes scanning the room with a calm that feels out of place. To everyone around her, she's nobody special. Just another face in the courthouse, maybe a low-level clerk or a lost visitor. But what if I told you this woman, this unassuming figure slipping through the chaos, holds a secret so monumental it's about to shake this courthouse to its core? Let's set the stage. It's a crisp morning at the D.C. Superior Court, one of the busiest courthouses in the country. The halls are packed, attorneys arguing in hushed tones, defendants fidgeting nervously, spectators whispering about high-profile cases. Today's docket is intense, a major corporate fraud trial that's drawn media attention. The courtroom is a battleground with elite lawyers from top firms ready to spar. The judge, a stern man named Harold Grayson, presides over the case, his reputation for no-nonsense rulings preceding him. Everyone's on edge, eager to impress, to win, to make their mark. Into this world walks Clara. That's what we'll call her for now. Clara doesn't demand attention. She doesn't stride into the courtroom with the confidence of a seasoned attorney or the swagger of a media darling. She slips in quietly, taking a seat at the back, her satchel resting on her lap. She's here to observe, or so it seems, her presence barely registering among the polished professionals. The lawyers don't notice her. The bailiffs don't glance her way. Even the spectators, buzzing with excitement, overlook the woman in the plain blazer. The trial is in full swing, and the tension is palpable. The plaintiff's attorney, a slick man named Victor Lang, is grilling a witness with theatrical flair, his voice booming through the courtroom. The defense, led by a sharp woman named Diana Pierce, fires back with cutting objections. Judge Grayson bangs his gavel, demanding order, but the atmosphere is electric, charged with ambition and ego. Clara watches from her seat, her expression unreadable, her hands folded calmly. She's taking it all in, the arguments, the posturing, the subtle power plays. Then something goes wrong. Victor, in the middle of a heated argument, makes a bold claim about the evidence, citing a precedent that sounds impressive but shaky. Diana objects, calling it baseless, and the two descend into a shouting match. Judge Grayson, visibly frustrated, leans forward. "Counselors, enough," he snaps. "Mr. Lang, you'd better have case law to back that up, or I'll hold you in contempt." The courtroom holds its breath, waiting for Victor's response. He fumbles, flipping through his notes, his confidence cracking. I believe it's in Crawford v. Ellison," he stammers, but his voice betrays uncertainty. The room murmurs, sensing weakness. Diana smirks, ready to pounce. The spectators lean forward, anticipating a legal knockout, but before Victor can dig himself deeper, Clara stands. It's a small movement, almost imperceptible, but it draws eyes. She clears her throat, her voice soft but clear. "If I may, Your Honor," she says, "the precedent Mr. Lang is referencing is likely Crawford v. Ellison, 1987, but it's misapplied here. The correct case is Thompson v. Hargrove, 1994, which addresses the evidentiary standard in question." The courtroom freezes. Every head turns to Clara, their expressions a mix of confusion and disbelief. Who is this woman interrupting a high-stakes trial? Victor's jaw drops, his face reddening. Diana's smirk fades, replaced by a scowl. Judge Grayson peers over his glasses, his voice sharp. "And who are you exactly?" he asks, his tone dripping with skepticism. The bailiff steps forward, ready to escort her out, while a young attorney in the gallery whispers loudly, "What's she doing? She's not even a lawyer." Laughter ripples through the room, harsh and mocking. Clara doesn't flinch. She adjusts her satchel and meets Grayson's gaze. "I'm just an observer, Your Honor," she says, her voice steady. "But I believe I can clarify the issue." The laughter grows louder, more brazen. A spectator, a man in a flashy suit, calls out, "Go back to filing papers, lady." A junior lawyer named Ethan, chuckles. This isn't a community college debate club. The room is alive with derision, the crowd feeding off the moment, eager to see this nobody put in her place. Judge Grayson bangs his gavel, silencing the room. Order he snaps, then turns to Clara, his eyes narrowing. "You've got 10 seconds to explain why I shouldn't have you removed for disrupting my court." The threat hangs heavy, the room watching, waiting for Clara to crumble. Victor and Diana exchange glances, both annoyed but curious. The bailiff hovers ready to act. The spectators lean in, some pulling out phones, sensing a viral moment. But Clara doesn't crumble. She takes a deep breath, her hands steady her eyes, calm but piercing. There's a strength in her silence, a quiet power that no one has noticed until now. She steps forward, her sensible shoes echoing softly on the marble floor. Something's about to happen, something no one in this courtroom could have predicted. The woman they've mocked, the woman they've dismissed, is not who they think she is. And when the truth comes out, this courthouse will never be the same. The tension in the D.C. Superior Court is thicker than ever. The corporate fraud trial has reached a fever pitch, and Clara, the unassuming woman in the plain navy blazer, stands at the center of it all. The courtroom is a cauldron of disbelief and mockery, her bold interruption correcting a lawyer's misstep met with laughter and scorn. Judge Grayson's gavel still echoes his warning, ringing in the air, 10 seconds to justify her presence or she's out. The bailiff looms nearby, his hand on his radio, ready to escort her from the room. Victor, the plaintiff's attorney, glares at her, his ego bruised by her correction. Diana, the defense counsel, crosses her arms, her expression a mix of irritation and amusement. The spectators, a mix of lawyers, reporters, and curious onlookers, whisper and chuckle, their phones raised to capture what they expect will be a humiliating exit. Clara stands calmly, her satchel still slung over her shoulder, her face serene despite the hostility. "Your Honor?" She says, her voice steady but soft. "I apologize for speaking out of turn. But if you'll allow me, I can provide the correct legal precedent to move this case forward." The room erupts in laughter, again louder this time, the sound sharp and cruel. Ethan, the junior lawyer, leans toward his colleague and mutters, "She's delusional, thinks she's Perry Mason or something." A reporter in the back snickers, typing furiously on her phone. "This is going viral," she whispers to a colleague. Judge Grayson's patience is wearing thin. He leans forward, his voice like thunder. "Ma'am, this is a court of law, not a public forum. You have 5 seconds to sit down, or you're in contempt." The threat is real now, the room buzzing with anticipation. Victor, regaining his composure, jumps in. "Your Honor, this is absurd," he says, his voice dripping with disdain. She's clearly not qualified to speak here. "Let's move on." Diana nods, adding, "With all due respect, this is a waste of the court's time." Clara doesn't waver. She adjusts her glasses, her hands steady, and takes a small step closer to the bench. "Your Honor," she says, her voice rising just enough to cut through the noise. Thompson v. Hargrove establishes that the evidence Mr. Lang cited must meet a higher standard of admissibility. If you check the record, you'll see it applies directly to this case. I can provide the citation if needed. Her words are precise, delivered with a quiet authority that makes the room pause. The laughter falters, replaced by a ripple of uncertainty. Judge Grayson's eyes narrow, his skepticism warring with curiosity. He's been on the bench for decades, seen every kind of stunt, but something about Clara's calm certainty gives him pause. "You're telling me you know this case law better than counsel?" he asks, his tone still sharp but less dismissive. The bailiff shifts, unsure whether to act. Victor scoffs, rolling his eyes. "This is ridiculous," he mutters. "She's probably Googled it." The room chuckles, but it's weaker now, the mockery tinged with doubt. Clara doesn't respond to the jabs. She reaches into her satchel and pulls out a small notebook, flipping it open to a page of neat handwritten notes. "Thompson v. Hargrove, 1994. Third Circuit," she says, her voice clear. It's on page 472 of the Federal Reporter. The ruling clarifies the chain of custody for financial documents in fraud cases, which directly impacts Mr. Lang's argument. The room goes quiet, the air heavy with shock. Victor's face pales, his notes forgotten. Diana's arms uncross her eyes, widening. Even Ethan, the loudmouth junior lawyer, stops whispering, his mouth slightly open. Judge Grayson leans back, his expression unreadable. "Approach the bench," he says, his voice low but commanding. Clara nods, stepping forward, her sensible shoes clicking softly. The bailiff hesitates, then steps aside. The spectators are silent now, their phones lowered, their eyes locked on Clara. Something's shifting in the courtroom, a subtle change in the atmosphere like the calm before a storm. Victor and Diana exchange glances, their confidence shaken. The reporter in the back stops typing, her fingers frozen over her phone. As Clara reaches the bench, Judge Grayson peers down at her. "You've got 1 minute," he says. "Convince me you're not wasting my time." The room watches, breathless, expecting her to falter. Victor mutters to his co-counsel, "She's done for." Diana shakes her head, whispering, "This is a circus." Ethan pulls out his phone again, ready to record the inevitable failure. They're all waiting for Clara to crash, to prove she's out of her depth, to confirm their assumptions about the quiet woman in the plain blazer. But Clara doesn't crash. She opens her notebook, her fingers steady, and begins to speak. Her voice is calm, but commanding her words, precise, weaving a legal argument so sharp it cuts through the room's skepticism. She cites cases, statutes, even obscure rulings, her knowledge encyclopedic, her delivery flawless. The room listens stunned as her words reshape the case before their eyes. Judge Grayson's expression softens his eyes, narrowing not in anger, but in recognition. The bailiff steps back, his hand off his radio. The spectators are silent, their mockery replaced by awe. Something extraordinary is happening. Clara isn't just holding her own, she's dominating. And the truth, the real truth about her, is starting to dawn on the room. The woman they laughed at, the woman they dismissed as a nobody, is no ordinary observer. Her plain blazer, her quiet demeanor, her worn satchel, they're a mask hiding a past so remarkable it's about to rewrite everything this courtroom thought it knew. The courtroom in the D.C. Superior Court is a different place now. The air is charged not with mockery, but with a stunned reverence. Clara stands at the bench, her notebook open, her voice steady as she finishes her argument. She's just dismantled Victor's shaky claim with a mastery of legal precedent that leaves the room speechless. Judge Grayson, a man known for his unyielding demeanor, leans forward, his eyes sharp but respectful. "That's impressive," he says, his voice low. "But I'll ask again, who are you?" The question hangs in the air, heavy with expectation. Victor, still reeling, grips his notes, his face a mix of embarrassment and confusion. Diana, no longer smirking, watches Clara with a mix of admiration and unease. The spectators, their phones forgotten, lean forward, desperate for an answer. Ethan, the junior lawyer, whispers to his colleague, "She can't be just some clerk, right?" The reporter in the back is typing again, her eyes wide, sensing a story bigger than she imagined. Clara closes her notebook, her hands steady, and looks up at Judge Grayson. "My name is Clara Bennett," she says, her voice clear and calm. "I'm here to observe, but I believe my perspective can assist the court." The room murmurs, confused by her vague response. Victor, seizing the moment, jumps in. "Your Honor, this is highly irregular," he says. "She's not counsel, not even a registered attorney here. She shouldn't be speaking." Diana nods, adding, "With respect, we need to maintain order. This isn't a free-for-all." Judge Grayson raises a hand, silencing them. "Ms. Bennett," he says, his tone softer now, "you've demonstrated knowledge I don't see every day, but I need credentials. Why should I listen to you?" The room waits, the tension palpable. Clara pauses, her eyes scanning the courtroom, taking in the faces, some skeptical, some curious, all waiting for her to falter. Then from the back of the room, a young clerk named Sarah gasps. She's been quiet until now, her eyes glued to her phone, scrolling frantically. "Oh my God," she says, her voice trembling. "It's her, it's her." She holds up her phone, showing a photo from a legal journal, the headline blazing, Clara Bennett, youngest Supreme Court Justice in history, retires after historic tenure. The room explodes in whispers, a wave of shock rippling through the crowd. Clara Bennett. The woman they mocked. The woman they called a nobody is a legend. A former Supreme Court justice who stepped down a decade ago, choosing a life of quiet observation over public acclaim. She's been attending trials, visiting courthouses, mentoring young lawyers in the shadows, her identity hidden behind her plain blazer and unassuming demeanor. And today, in this courtroom, she's stepped into the light. Judge Grayson's face changes, his sternness giving way to awe. "Justice Bennett," he says, his voice thick with respect. We had no idea. Please forgive us." He rises from his chair, a rare gesture of deference, and the room follows a hush falling over the crowd. Victor's notes slip from his hands, his face pale. Diana lowers her head, her earlier arrogance gone. Ethan, the junior lawyer, stares at Clara like she's a myth come to life. The reporter types furiously, her story rewriting itself in real time. Clara raises a hand, her expression calm but firm. "I didn't come here to disrupt," she says. "I came to listen. But when I saw a mistake, I couldn't stay silent. Justice demands clarity, not ego." Her words resonate, a quiet rebuke to the room's earlier mockery. The spectators applaud, tentative at first, then thunderous, their earlier laughter replaced by admiration. Even Victor claps, his pride humbled. Diana steps forward, her voice shaky. "Justice Bennett, would you advise us?" she asks. Clara smiles just a hint and nods. The trial resumes, but it's different now. Clara takes a seat near the bench at Judge Grayson's invitation, her presence commanding, without being loud. She offers insights, her voice soft but authoritative, guiding the lawyers through the case with a wisdom that transforms the proceedings. The courtroom, once a place of ego and ambition, feels warmer, more human. The attorneys who mocked her now listen intently, their arrogance replaced by respect. As the session ends, Clara gathers her satchel and prepares to leave. Judge Grayson stops her at the door. "Justice Bennett," he says, "this court is honored by your presence. You're welcome here any time." Clara smiles, her eyes warm. "I'll keep that in mind," she says, and steps out into the D.C. afternoon, the city's monuments gleaming in the distance. The courtroom is still buzzing, the attorneys and spectators talking about what they've just witnessed. They'll tell this story for years, the day they underestimated a quiet woman in a plain blazer, only to learn she was a Supreme Court justice. A legend. A reminder that you never know who's standing in the room with you or what they've accomplished. So, my friends, the next time you're tempted to judge someone by their clothes, their silence, their unassuming presence, remember Clara Bennett. Remember that wisdom doesn't always wear a robe. It doesn't need to. It shows up, speaks truth, and leaves the world changed. And maybe, just maybe, the person you're overlooking is the one who's already shaped history.